I have 5 examples that I'm going to try with you today. Given the similar polygons, use a proportion to find the value of each variable. In number 1, we have to find the variables x and y. Now we're not going to do both at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is look at the similarity statement that was given. You were given that triangle JKL is similar to triangle NML. So what we want to do is use that similarity statement to identify which sides are corresponding, which sides match up. So let's look here at the letters. We have JK and NM. So JK corresponds to NM. So I think it would be helpful if you had 3 different highlighters to highlight these sides that correspond. Next we have KL that corresponds to ML. So I'm going to highlight KL and ML. And last we have JK, and that is corresponding to side NL. So JL and NL. Okay, so now that we have everything corresponding, we can see which sides match up. So if I decided to set up a proportion with side X and 40, then I'll set that equal to the side that corresponds to X. The side that corresponds to X is 14, and the side that corresponds to the 40 is 16. So at this point, once we've set up our proportion, then we can cross multiply and solve. So we'll have 16 times X equals 14 times 40. And let's go ahead and solve. We'll have 16x equals 560. And if we divide both sides by x, we will get 35. All right. Now, if we wanted to make sure that this proportion was correct, we can go ahead and look at those letters. X is representing KL, and 40 is representing KJ. So again, we can look back at that similarity statement and look at the matching parts here. We have KL corresponding to ML, and then we have KJ corresponding to MN. So we're going to set up a similar proportion, except we're going to solve for y, which is representing ln. So I'm going to take any 2 sides. Now that we've solved for x and we found out that x equals 35, you can choose any 2 sides on this triangle. I'm going to choose y and 16. I have to choose the side that corresponds to y on the other triangle. On the other triangle, 45 corresponds to y, and 40 corresponds to the 16. And now we'll use the cross product property, and it'll be 40 times y equals 16 times 45. So go ahead and use your algebra skills and finish this up. On the next example, we'll do the same thing. We'll look at the similarity statement and determine which sides correspond or match up. Side DE matches up to HJ. So we'll highlight this in blue. And then we have DE matches up to JG. And lastly, we have DF corresponding to HG. You can start with either variable. I'm starting with x. I'm going to set x over 15 and set that equal to 12 over 9. We want to make sure we chose the sides that corresponded. X is in green and 12 is in green. And notice both these values are in the numerator. They're at the top of this fraction. And the 15 and the 9 are both in blue. Now, cross product property, we multiply 9 times x and set that equal to 12 times 15. So go ahead and finish this one up. And I'll get started on y. I'm going to choose y and 15. And set that equal to 14 over 9. All right, on the next example, we're going to highlight our corresponding parts. 54 represents RS, and RS corresponds to UV in our similarity statement. So I'll highlight that in purple. And then let's look at 24. That represents RQ, so we'll highlight that, corresponding with TU. Let's go ahead and set up a fraction with a triangle on the left. I'm going to choose 54 over 24. It doesn't matter how you set up this fraction, but how you follow through does matter. So if I personally decided to start off with 54 over 24, as I go to the other triangle, the part in purple has to be on the numerator. So it'll correspond and match up to the 54, and then x plus 5 will go on the denominator. When we cross multiply, we will be using distributive property for this. Take a closer look. We will have 54 times x plus 5, and we'll set that equal to 24 times 36. Let's go ahead and solve. I'll distribute the 54, and we'll get 54x plus 270. Let's go ahead and subtract 270 from both sides, and we'll get 594, and we'll divide by 54 and get 11. Once we solve for x, we are done with this problem. All right, for example 4, what I'm going to do in a situation like this is separate the triangles apart so I can see which sides correspond. I'll draw a triangle ADE and label the appropriate measures on the triangle. And then I'll draw a triangle ABC right next to it. Now, side BC measures 2x plus 3. We have to find side AB. In order to do that, we have to add 20 and 8, so we get 28. After putting these measurements on the sides, what we're going to do is look at the similarity statement, and we're going to find out which sides are corresponding. So side AD looks like it's corresponding to side AB. And then we have side DE, and that's corresponding to side BC. Once these are marked up, we can go ahead and set up the fraction. So I'll set up the yellow over the green, so I'll have 20 over 15 equals yellow over the green, 28 over 2x plus 3. Go ahead and cross multiply and solve this proportion. Don't forget to distribute the 20 to both 2x and the 3, okay? On the last problem, as long as you highlight, you're going to be fine, okay? So let's look at side MP here. MP corresponds to QP. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these in green. And then we have side NP, and NP corresponds to RP. So all I'll do is go to one triangle and decide how I want to set up my fraction. So if I say x plus 8 over 24, what I've just set up is the blue over the green. So as I set up my proportion on the right-hand side, it's got to be the blue over the green. So I need to set up 3x minus 9 over the green, which is 28. So let's go ahead and cross multiply this and solve. Here's our setup, and we're going to distribute. And we'll go ahead and subtract the 28x from both sides. and then add the 216. Let's go ahead and divide both sides by 44, and we get x equals 10. All right, that's it. If you have any questions, please send me a message.